Folks, it's the end of the first week of December 2020, COVID year.
Yeah.
Right. I wanted to do a little check-in video here. It's been a while since I've posted a video on my YouTube page. One of the big projects I worked on this year was in August I started building a pole barn building. And so this video I'm going to walk through the progression. I took some video clips throughout the building and construction process. So you get to see that. It's cold out at about 26 degrees, and we had about 21, 22 inches of snow this week. So yeah, what else has been going on? Well, hunting season started here in Pennsylvania, and my son got his first deer, a nice 8-point, and that was cool. That was a real blessing. I was really proud of him. I placed a perfect shot on it. First deer's an 8-point. I don't know, hopefully he's not spoiled by that. And then I got the biggest buck I've ever shot here in Pennsylvania. And so pretty excited about that too. So a great hunting year. Did end up getting a doe yesterday, so that was good too. But so let's take a look here. The completed building. So I'm going to show you this here first because we just got the garage doors on a couple weeks ago. But you can see my 30 by 72 pole barn. So this is meant to be an equipment storage building for me. Sometimes I want to take the tractor out of the garage and put it here in the pole barn so I can build something in the garage or do something like that. You can see, got big doors in it here in the gable end. I've got a 14-foot wide, 12.5-foot tall, and then in the face along the southern exposure, I've got 3 doors that are the same size. Done a lot of grading work around it to brought in some material, some gravel, even had a little bit of crushed limestone that I used around it as well to kind of get the grade set properly. But it was a great project for me and my dad. Primarily he and I had built it. I had some help from my family and some friends who I really appreciated that. As I said, we started it at the beginning of August and finished it up, I think it was like when was it? It was probably about 6.5, 7 weeks of construction. And then I had to wait for the overhead doors to come in. But let's take a little walk over to it here. If you have done a project like this, well done. It's a big deal. Augering holes, setting poles. So as I said, I'm going to walk you through some of this with some video clips in this video. So it might be a little bit longer, but hopefully you can stick with it or fast forward to areas that you wanted to see some different things being done. One of the things I want to point out is I do not have any electric or water in this building. It's an agricultural building. I've got my backhoe for my tractor in here, my plow that I use in the winter. It goes in here during the summer. Conversely, I put the bucket in here in the winter when I take it off the tractor. But just needed some space to store things. But as you're going to find out, it's dark in here, right? And so some people may say, well, you should have, put some panels in that were clear. I've never really been a fan of the clear panels. Just seen them photo decay over time, so it's not something that I wanted to put in. I am looking at maybe putting a solar panel on the roof or on the face of the building here, and putting in a battery and wiring in a little panel so that I can have some LED lighting maybe down through the length, and perhaps an outlet that if I ever did have a piece of equipment in here that the battery needed a little bit of a boost or something like that, that I could do that. But you can see I've got a gravel, kind of a crushed bank kind of floor in it. Here, we'll go open the garage door here, that way get some lighting. So you can see, got it all flattened out, graded in real nice. I'm not sure if in my other videos I showed the final product, but along the base of the doors, I put a treated 4x6 in, and that's to give the doors a nice clean place to seal onto. So put a threshold in, got some of my equipment in here. I really don't have a great organization yet. I'm just trying to get stuff in here, and I kind of ran out of time even to clean off my brush hog, so I got to do that. But just trying to get some stuff out of the weather. So I hope you can watch some of my other videos, subscribe, and hopefully as you look at the construction progress on this pole barn, gives you some ideas on maybe things that you can do. You know, it's a physically tasking process to build a building like this. Primarily two guys, you know, 43-year-old guy and a 71-year-old guy. But it was a blessing to be able to build it with my father, and he's the master craftsman, and you know, I'm the labor, if you will. But I really appreciate you watching. Okay, so here we are, phase one of the building project. So the first thing we did is we showed was to mark our first corner, and then we used a transit to establish our line. So we placed the first post for the corner, and then we set up our layout boards or batter boards. Again, we step back from the building line with these so that we have room to work and auger in the holes and work to set the poles and all of that stuff. So you want to brace those fairly well because they are going to be used for your layout. We do that at the four corners. We used a laser level to establish our at least a working line for a grade. This is not going to be the final grade, but it's giving us a reference point so that all four batter boards and the lines that are on them are at the same plane and level. So with the transit, we can shoot our line this way, the length of the building, 72 feet. We can get our parallel line on the back of the building and then turn the transit 90 degrees to establish this corner over here. You always want to double check your diagonals. So once we had all these points established, we held here and went diagonally to the other corner and verified that we had the same dimension going this way as that way. If you're off, then you've got to reestablish, make sure you verify that your building is in fact parallel both directions and that you have a 90-degree angle. You can do that with the 3-4-5 method as well. So now that we're at this point, the next step is to lay out the posts where they're going to be placed. I intend to have some garage door openings along this face that are 14 foot wide, 3 of them there. And then on this 30 foot length, I will have one 14 foot opening in the center of it. So I'll get some orange marking paint and we'll perform the layout to set the center of the poles and then use a hydraulic auger. Picking up the lumber, at least a good portion of it that's going to be used for the header boards, girts, the poles, skirt boards. So the T495 coming in very handy as we work to pull these bunks of lumber, skidded up bunks off the trailer. Alright, so today we set the transit up and established our grade. That gives us an idea of where we want the bottom of each hole. So we're using a Macmillan hydraulic auger on the T495, 18-inch auger. So we've established the outside of our building line, and now we're stepping back 1.5 inches to accommodate the ledger board, the skirt board, and all that, so we know where the pole is supposed to set. We've put some fast set concrete in the bottom of each hole with some rebar. We will be using these adjusters to help stabilize the pole. So, stake in the ground, 2x4 screwed in or nailed into the angle there, and then you can twist that to adjust the top of the pole. So you can see we have some of our poles ready. So each hole we tamp the bottom, put the concrete in, the rebar. Now we're waiting for it to set and set the poles. Day 2 of building. You can see over there in the background, Claudia and I are running the concrete factory. Getting a good mix rolling, set the pole, auger some more holes. Just a repetitive process. So 1 bag of the fast setting concrete mix in the bottom of the hole, set the pole after it's cured, and then 2 bags of 80-pound Quikrete around the pole. Alright, so you can see we have the girt boards on, and now we're putting the 2x12s around the top. Now I have a 14-foot ceiling in there, so it's quite a ways off the ground, and I had to think about how I wanted to lift those 2x12s. So I took the forks off of the plate and clamped on some 2x4s to act as a guide, and then I clamped to that. And that allows me to lift and get it right in location within a couple inches. And what I do is I put one of the TimberTech lags at the bottom so I can set it on top of there. That way when I'm working from the ladder, the most I have to move it is a couple inches. And it takes some up and down time on the ladder and moving the ladder, but it takes the effort out of having to lift this thing up there because these are heavy. So this weekend we finished setting poles and finished putting the top girder boards on. They're going to support the trusses on the inside and outside, so we had to finish up this area and then frame the door in there. Put some 2x6s up to carry the truss, keep it upright. And we put some blocking in, you can see on top, and cut the 412 pitch on the poles and the blocking. We put some 2x12 bracing. You see that right there on each side of the door. Going to do more of that at the other end, and then in that wall, those are some small walls between the 3 big doors, so you got 1, 2, 3 doors. So we're going to put X bracing in there just to stiffen up the building, give it some rigidity, take some of the wind shear. But coming together pretty well. Ledger locks are working great, and 3.5-inch deck screws, not using any nails. So we got the trusses in. Crane worked well on the tractor. You can see we fabricated the gable ends on the ground, brought them up, tied them back, used a bunch of ledger locks and a bunch of 3-inch and 3.5-inch screws. Screws provide a lot of uplift resistance, so a lot of screws are used in this. You can see some of the bracing, truss bracing. I still have some more that I want to do, but the roof purlins are complete, the overhangs are complete. I need to cut the tops off the poles. I'll put the bubble insulation down, and then charcoal. It's going to look like my other garage over there. Charcoal colored steel, painted steel. Here you can see the connections. Also put these diagonals in. Some pretty stout headers above the doors. Let's see the fascia boards. We ripped those in the shop. Had to trim the tails of the overhangs on the trusses. I'm going to use white vented soffit. Here we are looking to create the doorway opening. This is for the man door. I bought one of these Jeld-Wen doors from Home Depot. I think it's about 240 bucks. So what I did was I set a 4x6 in the ground there. I'm in a corner of the building where I've got big doors going down, and then in the gable end I've got a big door. So I wanted to put a post there to stabilize. I put some 6x6s mounted to the corner post. So these are some sections of 6x6 that I fastened to it, and then put a 2x6, tie it all together. Trying to create a stiff wall here. So I just cut the wall girts, and I cut one of the 2x6s that are tongue and groove, because this is going to be my grade inside the building. And I just cut a piece that's going to fit under this 2x6, create a nice flat surface for the sill plate right there to rest on. And I have my shims, so I can shim the door to get it plumb and level and properly centered. And then I'll create a header board across the top of the door, coming across there. So that's the plan for the man door. I'll provide another update. Just test fitting it right now. Looking pretty good. So I'm gonna pack out in here, so I've got a place to nail the J-trim around it. That way the steel will slide into that J-trim, and I'll finish that out real nicely. So I'll use some 2x4s, similar to what's happened around these doors, right? So you can see the 2x4s packing out so that when I have my J-trim and my overhead door trim in there, I've got a good nailing corner. So we'll do that next. Working to put the gable trim on. See, the south slope is complete. And this morning, 3 hours, we completed the north slope. I'm just finishing up putting some final screws in it. Once we have the gable trim on, we can put the ridge cap on and the ridge vent. Here you can see the ridge vent and the ridge cap. Some butyl tape running the length the ridge. Capping it out. So today we are going to see if we can sheet this north wall of the pole barn. So first thing we're going to do is install two different pieces of trim. So this is called F and J trim. So the F is where the soffit panel is going to go. The J is where the sheets of steel are going to go. So that'll get mounted at the top underneath the overhang. And again, the J will have the sheet steel going up into it. The F will have the soffit panel go into it. At the bottom, we'll install the base. So the sheet of steel will sit on this. Sometimes it's called rat guard. I think it's probably a nod to keeping animals and vermin out of the building, because otherwise the high rib would create an opening that stuff could get up into. So the high rib that gets blocked off so that it doesn't allow mice and things to get up in there. But essentially it'll be on the building like that, and the sheet of steel will run down, seal off the bottom, go into the J at the top. So 72 foot length, so we should have 24 sheets that'll be stood up, and that'll keep the weather out. Here where I'm located, most of the weather comes in from that direction and it'll hit that wall. So I got some cleanup to do. I'm kind of making some messes here. But it is nice to have the roof on. Here we are, north side. You can see the F and J at the top. And you see the steel being installed. Looking good. So right now what I'm working on is putting some fill around the base of the pole barn. You can see my skirt board there. And when I built this building, I decided to go a little bigger than the area that I'd filled in. So I kind of came off of my pad of fill. So I've had some taper. And so now I'm gonna make it so that it's nice and filled up. This is a crushed 2A, nice and sandy, not muddy. I don't like muddy crushed material. The gentleman I get this off of does a nice job. A lot of stone in it. So I'm gonna bring it up to a certain level on that skirt board, and then where the drip line is for the roof, I'm going to bring clean 2B stone out that far so that I don't get any dirt or any kind of mess up on the building from the drip. So my intention is to bring this 2A in here up to a certain level, put the 2B up there coming out a certain distance, couple feet, and then I'll bring in some topsoil, slope this down so that I can mow it real nice. Definitely want to cover up, stones, things of that nature. But we got, I got 5 loads at 16 yards per load to spread around the building and inside the building, because I have the same issue inside the building. I fell off the pad with the poles. I knew it was going to happen, so. But we got the tractor, so we'll work on making that happen. Here is the finished product. Not quite finished, but we found the last piece of steel that needed hung, the last piece of soffit that needed installed. I think I have 2 pieces of rat guard, the bottom closure to put on the bottom trim, and we have the overhead garage doors that need mounted. So you can see I went with the blue and white, matching my garage over there. So we installed the wall sheet steel. I've got the overhead door trim installed. You can see in the inside here I'm starting to work on getting it up to grade where it was a little bit low. I'm going to put some 4x6s in between the door openings, to give the door a place to close down on versus coming down to just dirt. So I'm just laying out how I want to do that. I think I'm going to use some angle that I have, some steel angle to mount to the 6x6 and come over and grab that. So I'll have to dig down for this, but I wanted to just get everything kind of roughed in for the grade. Some of my lumber here. Been thinking about the layout of how I want to store things in here. I have not put the gravel around the base yet. I've been working on the crushed 2A material. Still got some fine grading to do here. Turned out nice. You can see where I've been bringing up the grade on the northwest side. So used coil stock and a brake, and we created our fascia, put our soffit in, closed out that J trim where we needed it, nice outside corners, white ones. I'm pleased with the way it looks. It's going to give me a lot of nice room to organize my tractor and implements. One of the things I'm most likely going to do is put a couple snow guards up on the roof here and a piece of gutter just to keep the water from falling down in front of the door and snow drifting. This is the south slope, of the roof, so prevailing winds will drop snow on this side. Again, this is not, a building I intend to be in every day. Just need a place to be able to locate things, store things. Thinking about putting some shelving up high where I can store things that I don't access a lot, but want to be able to have around. Have a couple ideas there. I got to put some bottom closure on that. So in a couple weeks, it sounds like the garage doors will come in, and that'll wrap it up. Alright, quick little project here. Putting the door thresholds in. So when my overhead door comes down, I'd like it to hit on something solid. So I bought these 4x6s, and I had some 6-inch angle. Was it 6? No, I don't think it's 6. I have some big angle, at any rate. Probably 4-inch. Yeah, 4-inch angle. Heavy stuff. So I cut that, and we'll take and anchor it to the wall with a ledger lock and anchor it to the board lumber here. And then I have two places where I'm driving a big stake down through into the ground to kind of hold it and stabilize it. So that should work well to keep the door sealing up on something other than gravel. So one of the other ways I could have done this, I could have bought 16 footers and ran them across the pole, face of the pole, and bought some longer legs. That would have worked too. But I got 14 footers and I'm not taking them back. So I'm going to make them work. So I got the angle, put a few coats of paint on it, and now we're putting it in. So we'll do that on all 4 doors.